Hi there, my name's Sarah Conlon. I'm a Public Information Officer trainee working on the Nenana Ridge Complex fire. I'm here tonight to welcome you to this public meeting and introduce a good host of people who will be chatting with you, presenting real-time information about the fire, about the science that goes behind some of the things we're doing and the operations that we're pursuing. Let's see. Wanted to thank the Ester Volunteer Fire Department for hosting us here tonight in this beautiful bay. Thank you. And for all the work they've been doing on these fires as well. They've been out there busting it, so thank you so much. And I also want to thank all of you for coming here tonight. I know a Friday night is not the most exciting time to come to a community meeting, so I appreciate you making time out of your weekends to come here. I know everyone here has likely been affected by these fires in some way or another, and I'm glad you're here so that we can help answer your questions, address your concerns, and provide you information. So thank you for being here. All right, the purpose of this meeting is to hear from a number of members of our Alaska Complex Incident Management team regarding the fires. We want to provide you timely information, and we'll also have questions and answers at the end of the presentations. And I know that sometimes people are a little cautious about asking questions, but we want to hear your questions. If you're thinking that question, probably someone else in this crowd is as well. So please feel free to be bold and ask a question. We have a good host of people here who have the ability to help answer those and address your concerns. So we'll have a couple people speaking, and like I mentioned, we'll do questions and answers at the end. And then after that portion, we'll probably have a few folks hanging around for a few minutes to chat with you if you have any continued things you'd like to share with us. Let's see. Please silence your cell phones. Like I mentioned, this will be recorded, so we want to make sure that that recording is clear for those folks who will be watching it later. And we'll be posting this on the Alaska Department of Forestry Facebook page, as well as their YouTube page later tonight. So you'll be able to find that after this meeting or share it with your friends and family. We have representatives from quite a few different places here. We have Kevin Meany, the agency administrator for the Division of Forestry and Fire Protection. We have Jamie Hollingsworth with the Bonanza Creek Experimental Forest. We have folks from the Alaska Department of Transportation, Jason Sakalaskis and Jason Luddington. We have a representative from the mayor's office, Amy Galloway, and from Fairbanks North Star Borough, that's Nancy Durham. And then we also have folks from the State of Alaska Emergency Operations Center, that's Jana Drake and Laura. So thank you again all for being here. Really appreciate you making the time to come here to help with these questions and concerns that folks may have. I'm gonna bring up Josiah Volkman, so many names on my list, thank you. Josiah works here at the Volunteer Fire Department and has a few messages for you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. My name is Josiah, I'm captain here, like she said. Thank you guys for all coming here today. It's nice to see some retired folks from Ester Fire 2 scattered through the audience. Emergency exits are located at this door behind her, kind of tucked around in the corner. There's obviously the bay door. There's another man door in my far right corner way over there, which brings us to the bathrooms. So the bathrooms are in that office area. There's a door in that corner leading into the rest of the building. You'll find a cone with a sign on it. Take a right and got the ladies and men's bathroom right in there. But thanks again for making it tonight. EVFD is happy to support this fire in every way we can. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, so first up, we have Eric Black. He's the Deputy Incident Commander for our team. Here you go.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Eric Black, the Deputy Incident Commander for the Alaska Complex Incident Management Team. And I have to tell you, it feels so natural for me to be in this environment. I started as a volunteer firefighter when I was 17. Had a little bit more hair and a little darker hair back then. Nonetheless, I still have firefighting in my heart, but it feels very natural to be in this environment. I'm less the the fixed communal environment as opposed to the bay door of a fire station. So glad to be here. I'm so happy to see such a huge turnout. It warms my heart to know that all of you are just as concerned about the situation as we are. So we are the #1 priority fire in the state of Alaska right now. I'm not going to say that that's always going to be that way, because priorities change depending on where fires start, what values at risk are there. But right now we are the #1 priority fire in the state of Alaska. What does that actually mean? Basically, when we ask for stuff, they're going to work really hard at getting that stuff for us. And so we've been asking for more equipment, more personnel to keep the fire in the current fire footprint and plan ahead if the fire chooses to leave the footprint. So with that, we have right now right at around 400 people here. They're not all from Alaska. They are from all over the country. We have them from as far as Florida and as close as Washington and Oregon. And we all come together to work on that one cause of fighting the fire and protecting homes and property, and making sure our lives are, at first, everybody's life is safe. So with that, I wanted to I know a lot of people don't really understand it when I say we're part of an incident management team. I get a lot of kind of stares at me. Well, what is a team? I thought we just need firefighters here. So what happens is if you rush in with 500 people to fight a fire, there's a lot more that goes to that, right? We can't just say, go fight fire. Well, where are we going to have them sleep? Where are they going to eat? What are they going to eat? How are they going to get the hoses? How are they going to get vehicles fixed? There's a lot more that goes to that than just go fight fire. So we have teams of people. In this case, the Alaska Incident Management Team has about 70 of us. And what we do is we manage the fire from 7 different aspects. So number 1 is the public information officers that are here today that put this together. There's liaison officers who work with organizations, private businesses, such as the Golden Valley Electric, GCI, the communications folks, just all the different organizations on helping everybody work together towards that one mission of putting out the fire and keeping people safe. We also have safety officers to keep us safe on the fire and throughout the whole incident. And then we have 4 things that we worry about, and one of them everybody knows of, and that's the firefighters, right? That's our operational folks, the boots on the ground that are actually out there doing this on a day-to-day basis. But somebody needs to support them with logistics, so that's another aspect of it, is the logistical side. You bring all these people together. As you know, in Alaska, you don't just, order something and it's going to be here tomorrow. If you've ever ordered something on Amazon, you're not getting 24-hour delivery here out in Nenana. So we have to bring all of that in to help support them. Even something like toilet paper. 500 people can go through a lot of toilet paper. And you got to have somebody to clean all those blue rooms, the restrooms. And then who's going to pay for all of this? Somebody's got to keep track of the expenses, right? Because eventually somebody's going to say, well, how much did you spend on this? So we have a small team of people that just keeps track of what's being spent and what things are being spent on and how much money we have that we may need in the future. So we need to go and ask for more money. And then somebody's got to come up with the plan. Somebody's got to make these pretty maps and keep track of the data. How many acres is it? What aircraft are we using? So all those things are done by a group of people that we call planning. So those are the 7 different, just to give you a general idea. You could spend years studying this, trust me. But that's the general idea, because a lot of people ask me, well, what about? What about? How do you guys manage this? Why don't we just put more firefighters here? There's a little bit more to it, and I know all of you living here understand that we can't just put a bunch of people in a place and suddenly they can put out fire. We're here tonight to really tell you what's going on with the fire, what we're doing with the fire, what we've done, what our plans are in the future, but most importantly is not necessarily us giving our message to you, but we're here to hear what your comments, what your needs are from us. That's why we do what we do. Lots of fun fighting fire when you're 18 years old with a head of black hair, but as you learn, it's a people issue. Firefighting is not just the environment, it's the people side of things. And I personally have been affected by disasters in my life with my family. And I know if I were in the same situation, if I were sitting in those chairs, I would have lots of questions for us. And I love the difficult questions. I love the questions that make me think. And I love the questions that make me learn. It was very nice. We had a community meeting in Nenana, and it was beautiful. They asked us some really difficult questions that made us think, questions that made us go back to our office, to the incident command post, and say, okay, what are we going to do different to help them know more about what's going on or change things to make things better for the community members? And we did that. We made some changes. There's better updates on certain areas. They had an issue with maybe some of where they were getting the information. I think all of you realize there's a lot of places you can look for information these days, right? You got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got all kinds of things. You got just the old-fashioned newspaper. But it's really difficult sometimes to figure out, well, which one do I go to? Which one has the most up-to-date? Which one pertains to me? We are the highest priority fire, but we're not the only fire in the state. So where do you go for information about our fire? And so we made sure we honed that up, and we've got things, right where it's easy for y'all to find it. And if you have suggestions what we can do to help you, we want to take that into account, because that's really important to us. And they had some suggestions actually for Golden Valley Electric Authority. And so we passed those messages on to them. And I dare say this word too early in this presentation, but they had some issues about the road. I know it's a topic. And we actually took their suggestions, and we have put some of those into practice to help those community members. And we'll have time, y'all can ask me road questions. I'm here for that too. And we're working every day on making that a better situation. And it's a tough balance between firefighter safety, public safety, and our economy in the state of Alaska. It affects a lot of people. And I know we're all inconvenienced by the road situation. And I say we, and I'm saying we as if I live here, but I work here right now. And so I'm part of that we, and us getting our firefighters through there. It's a challenging situation. I know a lot of you, we saw the comments on Facebook, a lot of you do understand our side of it. And as you'll see tonight, we understand your side of it too. It is difficult. And so with that, I think that was what I really wanted to share with you. What I really want to do is leave plenty of time for questions, because to me that's the most important part of this, is hearing what you have to say. And I could share more with you about what I have to say through you all asking me questions. So I think that's the most important thing. We have such a big crowd here tonight. I want to make sure we get lots of opportunities for folks to ask questions. But we do have other people that are going to present. We have a person who is an incident meteorologist, so he works actually in that planning section of our fire organization. And we have a fire behavior analyst. He's going to give you a little insight on what some predictions are about the behavior of the fire. And we have a person who is the almighty guru on the operations of the fire. I'm putting them high on a pedestal so you can kind of hold them there to that. And they're going to go over what the maps are and what we've done and what we plan to do. And then we'll go into some questions, and y'all can kind of blast us away left and right side here. The groom and the bride side can kind of blast us away with some questions, and we're gonna put, and we'll stay here as long as you need to. If we run out of time, we'll stay up here as individuals, and you can come up and ask us questions, point to places on the map and things like that. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Ben, and he's an incident meteorologist, and he's gonna give us the latest on weather and weather predictions.
I'm Ben. I am the weather guy for the fire. As just announced, I'm what's called an incident meteorologist. I am based out of Anchorage in Alaska. I spent 8 years forecasting here in Fairbanks, living here as well. And I come back a lot of summers, specifically for forecasting fire as well. So it's great to be back in Fairbanks, not for this reason, but it's always nice to come up here in the summer. Anyway, just a quick bit about incident meteorologists, what we do. So I work for the National Weather Service here. There's about 100 of us qualified to do what I do around the country, where we'll actually embed with to help out forecasting for specifically the fire. So a training pipeline that takes 2 to 3 years to learn very specific weather, like fire weather we call it, like just really fine scale, if you will, of just forecasting for like a specific mountain or a specific valley. And then we also learn about how fire works and fire teams work to get qualified to do this. And so there's like 6 of us or so in Alaska that are qualified to go out in Alaska fires, and we like to get out and get outside of the office and help the community out. And our specific job when we get on the fire, number 1 is firefighter safety, keeping firefighters safe on the line, let's say when thunderstorms, something like that, are popping up, getting them out of the way of the storm. And then B, helping the operations folks plan out, okay, this is where the fire might go, this is what it might do, this is how we can attack it. Weather is a huge component of fire, which the fire behavior analyst will speak to here in a minute. And then thirdly, it's helping all the folks out in the community to make sure that we are communicating the weather, and then we've got like a good weather forecast for everybody to help keep everybody informed, since it's such a key component of how fire works and how evacuations and all those cascading effects from what's going on with the weather work. So with that, just to draw your attention to this product, this is what will typically provide firefighters on the line. It's a weather outlook. All the pretty colors basically just are thresholds that show firefighters, okay, this is like some weather watchouts, as I would call them. So for instance, we have our maximum temperature. This weekend, we've gotten the forecast that it's supposed to be pretty warm out. Upper 70s tomorrow, pushing 80 or right at 80 on Saturday. So that's telling firefighters, okay, it's going to be darn warm out. Fires get more active when it gets warmer. So something to look at. And then also for firefighter safety, hey, make sure you're hydrating, make sure you got your proper rest work cycles, those kind of things, so they stay safe. So that's what all those colors mean. I do want to note that the forecast on this is going to be different than what you'll pull up on your phone or online. Going back to that very specific forecast we do, like I am forecasting specifically basically for Nenana Ridge and Goldstream Valley right now, about like a 2 to 3 square mile area there. That's it. That's my focus. So that'll be a little bit different than what you pull up on your phone or online, because that's just it's a different type of forecast. And like I said, I've got it really dialed in. But the trend is the same. So anyway, for the weather, looking at warming and drying this weekend, for most of us, it's going to be just a really nice weekend out for firefighters, maybe a little bit busier for them. And then going into the week, we still have nice weather, at least until Monday. There is a chance of some thunderstorms working their way back into the Fairbanks area Monday. And then the rest of the week, kind of just your seasonal temperatures, seasonal weather. Computer models, super wonky about from midweek on. They're just not really doing that great this summer with the weather. I'm sure you guys have probably noticed that. So we've got some uncertainty later in the week, but right now it's looking like that fair weather will generally hold but we'll see what happens. So stay tuned for updates with the local Fairbanks office here. And before I get off the stage and turn it over to Casey, our F-band, I just do want to say I am a local weather service person here in Alaska. So they pull us from all over the country. Not every time will you guys have like your weather person here. So I will stick around if anybody just wants to chat weather about not just this fire, but like Fairbanks weather in general. If you're like, hey, I noticed the forecast office is maybe could do a little better in this area or whatever. I will be here to chat about that, and I can go talk to them right after the meeting's done and be like, hey, this is what everybody said. And that is my cue to get off the stage and hand to Casey. Thanks, everybody.
All right, my name is Casey O'Connor. I'm Fire Behavior Analyst with the team, and as Ben mentioned, I tear off a lot on products that he's producing. The weather is one of the most dynamic pieces of the fire environment. And I'm also looking at the topography, which we actually have here, and that's kind of a rarity in Alaska fires, as well as the fuels, the fuel bed. And within each, you can look at that as they call it the fire behavior triangle. That's to kind of sum up how we look at modeling fire. There's more dimensions within each one of those. The weather, as I mentioned, is very dynamic, changing often. The fuel bed, the fuels, vegetation goes through growth phases. It also receives precip, it receives drying, and that's kind of what we're going through now. So the fuel bed's always changing, and then there's diversity of vegetation out across the landscape, and that also influences the fire behavior. My job, like Ben said, is primarily safety. I'm trying to watch out for potential to give heads up to operations, people in the fire line communities, help inform things like evacuation and stuff to keep people safe. Secondary part is to guide like tactics and help show the operations group where they can be successful, where they might have problems, stuff like that. Going back into the fuels and tying into the outlook Ben just covered as far as the outlook going forward. We are going into warming, drying. We did have a pretty good shot of rain a little bit ago, but it's kind of rebounding from that. One thing we do have going for us here is just climatology, general climatology here. You guys are getting to where the wetness comes. So, but that's not always true. I was up here in 2023 and it didn't quite pan out that way. So those are the factors going in, looking on this matrix going forward. The fuel bed is still recovering from a hit from the rain and is becoming a little more receptive to facilitating fire spread. And that's kind of upticking through the week, but nothing to get worked up about. It's moderate potential overall. And it's the winds, the good thing is the winds are fairly soft. And there's a lot of action going on out in the ground there to check that up. And I think before I go any further, I think we want to leave time for questions, so I'm going to cut it right there. And if you guys have questions afterward, I'd love catch me afterwards. I think that's the plan. Yep. All right. So I'll hand it over to operations, but come get me. All right.
All right. Thank you, Casey. Good evening, everyone, or maybe it's afternoon. It's hard for me to tell. I live in America. I'm Brian Ty, Operations Section Chief with the Alaska Incident Management team that we've brought together here for the Nenana complex. And what an Operations Section Chief does, there's actually 3 of us. We kind of fill different roles within the Operations Section. But we are responsible for guiding, creating strategy, leading the people on the ground, all the people that are really doing the work with the tools, the hose, the water, the heavy equipment, and making sure they're being applied in the right areas at the right time for the right reasons, if that makes sense. We also work with all the other functions that Eric mentioned, logistics, finance, all of that, and really our number one job is to support the people on the ground while accomplishing the objectives in the environment to serve the communities around it, okay? So I'm here to provide an operational update to you today on our fire. Just to orient you to the map, for those of you, I hope you can all see this. Tanana River, Nenana's down here, Parks Highway runs right through the center, and then we are just off the map up there in Ester. I'm sure you guys know the local maps much better than I do. although I get really intimate with this map in my time here. So we have, within this incident, this complex, we have 2 fires. The Goldstream Creek fire is to the north of the Parks Highway, almost completely, except for a few spots where it touched. And the Bonanza fire is to the south, also touched the highway from the south. So you'll notice some common things. They're both mostly east-west orientation, sort of running parallel to the Parks Highway in that area. The Parks Highway through there, as you guys know better than I do, between Nenana and here is along a rather high ridge. Okay, so that's been really unique. Casey mentioned that fighting fire in Alaska, often we don't deal with much topography and much elevation because we're in the interior where it's rather flat. So this is unique. However, we're all very well versed in topography and fire and Alaska, but we've got some interesting, unique factors here is what I want to point out. So currently, operationally, well, let me back up a minute. What we do when we get to a fire is we break it up into work groups, and that's all these letters you see. We call them divisions, okay? So I'll probably I might reference a division at some point. We base our actions upon the values at risk, and the values at risk are, number 1, life, safety, and property, and that's both of the firefighters and the public. And then they start moving into other things. I'll just give it a minute. Like infrastructure, which includes the Parks Highway, power, communications, all of that stuff. And then we continue down the list to different kinds of property, industry, like timber sales, all that kind of thing. And those get prioritized by the people that bring us in to do the work. So what we are focusing on, and really the main areas of focus, we've got 3 primary areas of focus, okay? We've got a lot of work going on here on the west side, and that's to protect these little Goldstream community out here. It may have a more local name, and the communities of Nenana beyond that. So we've done a ton of work out here, a lot of indirect line, which means using bulldozers and other equipment to put in lines that aren't right up tight to the fire. We're also pushing in contingency lines in a couple of locations and doing structure protection, which includes bulldozers, water handling equipment, all the kinds of things that you would need if the fire were to come into a community to protect the properties, okay? Now we're also working out here to the the east, and that is all because we have some open line out here, and we have the community of Ester and the outskirts, all those structures, communities, private residences that you can see some on the map here. Down there, I think like beyond Ester Dome and Murphy Dome. Is that right? Down in there? So we're doing work there. Now our number 1 priority, however, right now with all the folks in the field is the Parks Highway, okay? Because that is such an important piece of infrastructure to the state. We're well aware that that is like a vital artery for commerce and really for the livelihoods of people. For instance, we know there's some fuel moving through our fire area to get on barges to go out to some of the villages that are downriver to keep those places running throughout the winter, right? So we're well aware of that. We're working really hard because these fires impacted the Parks Highway very heavily, okay? So as Casey mentioned, there's a few things that drive a fire. There's fuels, there's weather, and topography. So when you put this topography, which the Parks Highway is right on top of, and you put fuel on it, and then you put fire at the bottom of it, and then you put a little weather in the area, it's gonna go uphill, right? We all know that. And it's gonna follow the available fuel paths. There's a lot of black spruce out there. Black spruce loves to burn. Most of what you see is where the black spruce was, okay? So we had quite a bit of impact and impacted a few communities, and I will say, this was before our time here. The initial attack folks did an amazing job of protecting property. We didn't lose any primary structures, so we're really proud of that. However, the first wave of fire isn't the end of the threat, so we have to keep folks in those areas to make sure that the fire is completely out, that you don't have fire come back and burn down a house because there was a little ember somewhere that flared back to life after you thought it was good. We also have to secure the area before public can get back in there. We have to cut trees, we have to clean up ash pits, we have to make sure that when somebody goes back there and to have a picnic in their backyard or the kids are playing, they're not gonna fall in an ash pit and get burned badly, or they're not gonna have a tree fall on them, and send them to the hospital. So that is a lot of the work that's going on in here along the highway, and that is a large part of the reason for the delay. That is actually the reason for the delay. It's public safety and it's firefighter safety. We're also moving equipment from the highway, because it's really the only access point, out to these outer edges and through the fire area to the southern edges to work on containment of the fire line itself. So we've got a lot of moving parts and pieces, as was mentioned, 400, maybe more. And when you think about 400 people, you have to realize that all those 400 people come with some kind of vehicle. Some of those vehicles are really big. They're bulldozers. They're trucks that carry bulldozers. We have maybe 24 pieces of heavy equipment on the fire. So we have to move those things around the fire, get them in the right place to do the work. So that is really a synopsis. We're focused on the areas where we have the highest values at risk. And as I said, it's the communities, it's the people, it's the private property, and it's the artery of the state there in the Parks Highway. Okay? All right, thank you.
Hey, Kevin. Kevin Meany, would you like to say a few words? Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Meany. I'm the Northern Region Forester with the State of Alaska Division of Forestry and Fire Protection. And I'm on this fire, I'm serving as the agency administrator. So we brought in the team to help us by managing this incident. And I'm just here today to show support for the team. We really appreciate all the work you're doing, that you're here, keeping people safe. And yeah, and I'd be happy to stick around for questions from the agency afterwards, but we just wanted to come and show support.
Can we hop back out?
Sure, yeah.
You want to come with me, Aaron?
Sure. I think test 1, 2.
Okay, great. All right, questions?
I'm gonna try and use the microphone to capture the questions, but I don't think it's gonna work.
Okay, we can repeat the question.
If you would, please, thank you.
Sure, sure.
The gentleman over here.
How much rain did the Nenana fire receive?
So, yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. I didn't mention it. Casey mentioned it briefly. Up on the ridge line, we have a camp. Maybe some of you know where it is. We pulled over an inch out of that rain gauge. The IMET can, you were all over the map, kind of, right? We're from half to.
The Bonanza itself got, depending on where you're at, the eastern side got between an inch and a half, and then the western a little bit less. I'd say probably average like 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, let me just repeat your question. So the question was, how much rain? The answer was that inch to an inch and a half on the east side, approximately 3/4 of an inch on the west side, and then scattered amounts throughout. Sir.
With that being said, how much did the Bonanza Creek fire head east today? Because I haven't seen a recent update, either from you guys or anybody else.
Sure. So the Bonanza Creek fire is very quiet today. I was up there all day. I did not see any smoke on the head of the fire at all.
You lucked out with the winds and the amount of rain you got.
Sometimes a double-edged sword, but yes, the rain has been helpful. However, we would have liked to have 3 to 5 times as much. An inch of rain is a lot. It's less in Alaska than it is in other places. Most places in the lower 48 will put a fire out with an inch of rain. In Alaska, because of the fuel type and the tundra and the root systems, fire burns deep, it gets low, it stays, it continues to smolder and reside underneath, so it takes a lot more rain and a lot more work to put it out. But it has helped us. It's given us quite a bit of time to get some of our containment lines in place.
Appreciate the morning briefings that you guys put on the internet and the iPhones and everything else.
Thank you.
That reminds me of being an athlete for 40 years.
Awesome, thank you. What else?
Yes, ma'am.
Right here?
I'm assuming that at some point you have or will be using fire breaks to help contain the fire.
The question is, are we using fire breaks or will we use fire breaks? The dozer lines, I was talking about are fire breaks. So we have a lot of those on the landscape at this point. We are continuing to construct them. The ones we currently have, I mean, essentially every piece of fire containment is a fire break, whether it's a hand line or a dozer line or a highway. The ones we have are largely defensive, built to protect the communities. Now the next step is that we'll go into the fire and we'll build fire line in the areas of concern and create a fire break right on the fire edge.
Yeah. Oh,
When are you
we'll
guys?
go you, and then we'll go for it.
So, I'm always amazed that a team can come into an area like this when frankly, hardly anybody lives there. And all of a sudden, you have this incredible depth of knowledge about things. How do you know where all the structures are? How do you know where all the black spruce is versus the white spruce? How do you know anything? I mean, it's like you walk in there, you introduce yourself, hi, I'm Bill.
Yeah.
How do you get to the point where you have enough knowledge
Yeah.
to be good
You want me to
at
tap?
putting
Yeah,
in place?
Do you want it?
I got it.
Okay.
So the question is, how do we show up somewhere and know what the heck we're doing? Right? Essentially, yeah, how do we know all this stuff? So there's a couple answers. One is years and years of experience, both in Alaska and in firefighting overall. When you put a team together, we rostered with 60, 70 people.
70 people.
You know, you can multiply all that number by 10 to 40 years. You add a lot of things together. We have science. That's what Casey was speaking to. So we have maps with all the structures. It's called the Known Sites Database. It's updated constantly throughout the year. We have maps of the fuels, so we know exactly where on here is hardwood versus black spruce. We can see it. There's been science, a lot of science done. But really, we also have a lot of local knowledge too. We use Alaskan folks on our teams. We have Alaskan experts that we can reference, that we can call up at Forestry, at Alaska Fire Service, and we roster Alaskans with our team. But really, I'll say that the sum is greater than the parts when you bring a team together, which is all these different parts. You know, you have logistics, you have finance, you have plans, you have us in operations, you have public information. Everybody goes out and does a specific job and then comes back together like one big brain and learns a lot. I mean, it's amazing. In the 24 hours that we're mobilizing, people are gathering information just by research. And then the 24 hours after we hit the ground, they're grabbing information just by getting out and doing their job. So things come together really quick and we learn really, really, really fast. It's one of the most amazing things about doing this work.
Does that answer the? We had up here. Yes, ma'am.
So first of all, thank you all for doing everything. It's an amazing project, and
Thank you.
just baffles me how you guys do this. But, so one of my main questions is, well, first of all, I was wondering what the brackets on the map are, but that's kind of, I think, related to my main question. That is, as somebody living along the old Nenana Highway, you know, I'm looking at the Goldstream Creek fire and how it's been creeping in our direction in the Goldstream Valley, and we're getting southwest winds, so that's, you know, that's starting to push it into our direction. So what are you sort of predicting, and what are some ways of dealing with that creep in our direction through that valley? Because like you said earlier, you know,
Yeah,
at some
you can
point it's
have
gonna
that.
go up
Yep.
the various ridges.
Thank you. The question is, what are we predicting as the fire moves up the Goldstream Valley to the east, northeast? Well, what we're predicting weather-wise is this. We've got an instant meteorologist who's embedded with us. They're always part of the team. So looking out in his crystal ball, which is actually a really good crystal ball, we're predicting this. So we've got fairly stable weather for the next week. What we're doing operationally is that we are actually, just yesterday and today, we started to insert people out here at the tip of the fire, of the Goldstream Creek fire. They worked their way across the creek and they started to build a helipad spot. And that's all in preparation to bring in more people, park crews out there, and start to work on that tip. Now, there is a spruce component out here. It's mixed. There's some marshes, there's some hardwoods. There are channels of spruce. So that's what those folks will concentrate on. And they'll be tying together all the natural features with their own handline work. So they'll use the waterways. They'll use the unburnable features that they're familiar with. And they will cut a fire break.
And what are the
The-
brackets on the map?
These are just delineate the separations between those organizational groups that we have. So this Division X-ray is responsible for this piece of ground, for instance.
That's how we assign the crews where to work, and so there's a supervisor for each one of those sets of brackets.
And are you guys pretty confident that you can keep the fire from growing further into that valley?
She jumps right to the million-dollar question.
We have a great opportunity with the weather and the fire conditions. The fire hasn't moved in a few days. We have high confidence that we will be able to do really good work to control the fire spread.
Yes, ma'am. And then we'll go to the back up here in the front.
Well, my question is about communication, and I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Instagram, and I don't want to be, and I don't think I should have to be, to get information from my government, so to speak.
Sure.
Yes.
So, the reports that I've been getting from that 69832 or whatever, that the borough, you can do wildfire, they've been very erratic in the last few days. We haven't gotten much of anything, and you guys might know that nothing is changing, but we don't know that.
So the question is about communication, and if you're not online, how do you get information? And we have an information officer here who's going to answer that. And we'll tag team with somebody else.
Hi, everyone. Brenna McGowan. I'm an information officer, and as Eric said, the question was about communication. If folks aren't on Facebook, on the social media, how are you able to get information in a timely manner? So we do have what we call trap lines all around Ester, Nenana, and we set up boards where daily we post information. We post a daily update. We post any updates to the evacuation map. We post the updated fire map. So we have those in the community. We also, on akfireinfo.com, I believe, we post a daily update. And again, every single day we are doing that. We are pushing that out in the morning. And let's see, in addition to that, we do have a phone number. I don't have it memorized, so I apologize. I'm gonna get my phone out and give the phone number to y'all. We do staff that from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the phone number is 907-331-0454. And if you call outside of those hours, we do have a voicemail set up, so we will get your voicemail. We will get back to you. And I believe we do have a representative from the borough to answer some questions about their communication as well. So I'll hand it off. Oh. Yes, so all around Ester, we have, like at the gas station across the street, you'll see we have a big information board. And we have, I think, 5 or 6 other locations: the coffee shop, the library, the saloon, the park, where else? Here at the fire station. And then in Fairbanks, I believe at the Northern Fred Meyers, we have, did we take that down?
Fred West.
Yes, Fred West. And also down in Nenana, we have those boards out as well. So we're trying to get information out to you as well as we can. And if you have better ideas, if you know a good location where you're like, hey, I stop here all the time, I don't see information, please come find one of us in the bright yellows afterwards and let us know, and we can add that to our stops.
And to answer the alerts and warnings for the 67283, that's to opt in to get alerts and warnings. We're not going to push out, and sorry, I'm Nancy, I'm the emergency manager and EOC director for the borough. We're not going to push out alerts or warnings unless we're telling you, go, ready, set. Like, so ready, hey, prepare, there's a fire nearby, start planning, get your stuff together. Set, which is the yellow, hey, It's getting closer. Do you have your plan? And now in our set alerts, we have phone numbers to collect your information. If you have animals that need shelter in, if you need a human shelter as well, so we could gather all that information for when we hit go, we know exactly how many people we need to set up for and have that ready. So we're getting better and being proactive with all of that. Then you will get go, and then you'll get the reversal. Hey, you downgrade it to set, or you downgrade it to ready, or hey, you're cleared now. So that's where you're getting those alerts that we're pushing out. Or if we open a shelter to let you know, hey, there's a shelter open at this if you need assistance. But other daily updates, it's going to be on their PIO, their trap lines, and those website. Yeah, all those information. We're not going to push those out on the alerts in the morning because people get information fatigue and they won't look at the alerts, and that's to tell you, hey, we need you to move, there's something going on, and that's what where that is.
Thank you. That was great. Yes, sir. And then we'll go to the back of the room. Yes, sir.
Things have changed since I did this. Believe me. One of the questions I have is on the maps. I mean, ever since 100 years ago, everybody always wants better maps. And one of the things that would be very useful is to have the names of the secondary roads and a little more clear definition of where those are at within your maps, because, you know, that's what everybody wants to know is like, where am I at in this? And it was very hard to see the same map online. It was like, I still don't know. I mean, I know I'm in a green zone, which is good, but I still don't know, like, if it were different. So I imagine the same thing applies to a lot of people who are in the red zone.
Right.
So that's just a suggestion. I could go on and on.
You want me to? Oh.
Hi again. On our evacuation zone map, which has the colors red, green, yellow, and we did extend past our borders on our map this year, so everybody's on the same map right now for both fires. But when you go on there, there is layers, and you can zoom in and you can see exactly where your road is and what zone you're in and what color you are. So you can zoom straight into the map. If you don't have online, then I'm sorry, that's another thing. But online, if you have online resources on our evacuation map, you can get those
I'm going to
tools.
follow up with a comment on that.
Not everybody has a great internet connection. Some people don't have, out here, people still have dial-up.
Right.
So, and all organizations, not just DNR or the borough, are pushing everything online.
Yeah.
And that makes it very hard for a lot of people who aren't participating in that or do not have a good internet connection.
So the comment was that if you don't have good internet, because some people still have dial-up internet speeds, that you're not getting all the information in a timely fashion, or you can't use the internet as well. So that is why we do have that phone line, so you could call and say, look, this is where I am. I'm not sure I'm in or outside of the ready, set, or go area. Part of the problem with us putting that product out as like a paper product, there's so many little side roads that if we put every little side road in there, you couldn't read the map. It's very difficult to find that balance between enough information and then so much information that it's just a blurry product. So we try to balance that, and that's why we've been trying to push out that phone number. It was published in the paper. We try to put that everywhere possible. And don't hesitate to call. We've got wonderful people standing by to take your questions. Somebody in the back with the black hat.
You talked about emphasis on Gulfstream in the east. What's the emphasis on the Bonanza Creek fire, particularly to the east, because that's where I live?
Good question.
The question is, what are we doing on the east side of the Bonanza fire? because he lives near there? It's a very good question. And I know a lot of you do. So I just didn't mention it. We have a lot of work completed already. I'll flip around here. On the east side of the Bonanza Fire, we've got dozer lines around the very furthest eastern tip, and we're working road systems that come all the way off the Parks Highway, and we're trying to work these all the way down to the Nenana. So they're making a lot of progress. In fact, I believe this road was going to be complete with mastication today. So that gives us a fuel break across the whole eastern side of the fire. Now the very tip, we have that fuel break right up on the fire, and we've got the Midnight Sun Hotshots, who some of you may know are out of Alaska Fire Service, local Alaska crew, highly competent, know this fuel type better than anybody. They are starting to work down this northeast corner of Bonanza to really secure that whole area, both to protect the parks and because if it starts to get up into here, it's got another path to move. So we've got containment line in here, we've got hose lays going in, the work's being done really, it's good work in there. Down in here, we will continue to do work along in here, but the fuel type is entirely different. As I mentioned, spruce is what loves to burn. The hardwoods, especially after a rain, they don't burn much. So as we move through here, we're looking at a very different fuel type as it gets down toward the river especially. And we're going to continue to assess the work that we need to do in there to make sure it's all secure.
Yes, ma'am.
I've got a question on fire behavior and then another question for Nancy on emergency notifications. It seems like the fire planes drop off around 10 o'clock, and I'm wondering if that is for operational issues. Surely it's not because we're all going to bed. And it was hard to imagine the Bonanza Fire a couple days ago, as hot as it was, that 1,500 gallons of water is going to do anything other than put a nice little mist on it. So how does that actually work?
The question is, how do the planes work? Right?
It's a good summary.
A little bit of water and all that fire. Did you see some of the planes drop?
I haven't seen them drop on this fire, but I am
You've seen it before.
in the flight path and see them go over, and I'm like, okay, go to your stuff.
Okay. So in the days prior, I forget which day, if it was the day prior to the rain or the day prior to that, we actually had 6 of those planes flying all in a line, followed by another set of a different type of plane. So it's really all that water. And those planes, the big yellow ones, are called super scoopers. They drop their water, they go land in a lake, they scoop it back up, and they come right back and do it again. So they just keep looping and doing it. That adds a lot of water. They're very effective, especially up here in these fuel types.
And so the cutoff in the evening is operational and not just because it's bedtime.
Well, pilots do need to sleep. They have duty days as well. But yeah, so our operational, we've got operational structure throughout the day. And the situation warranted that we didn't need to continue. Even though the sun doesn't go down, humidity still come up and temperatures drop at night. So that gives us a chance to go and recuperate. Yeah, we gas up the plane.
For Nancy, on the emergency alert, we get the text messages that go out borough-wide on the different zones. A couple weeks ago, we all got this screaming out of the blue Hayes Creek. Is that a new functionality for the borough? You guys were letting us know it exists? And if we are in an area that changes from ready to go or set to go, we're going to get that again?
So the question is about the iPause emergency alert system and WIA morning emergency alert systems. Those will be going out for go when we hit go in, especially when we hit residentials. Some of these goes like we had today, we looked and there was no structure, or yesterday, and there was no structure, so we didn't do iPause. But for those that are populated and have residential structures, we will be pushing out the iPause. It will hit everywhere. The one you got for Hayes Creek was my boss's first one. And he drew the map a little wrong because he's new and we haven't been able to train yet. So he drew the map a little wrong, and it went out. And no, we do use them. We have used them in the past. We've used them for 911 outages and different things like that to let everybody know. And even when I drew the bubble in FNSB, my friend in Bethel got our alert. So it's like, I don't know how you got it. I just drew. So sometimes it has a mind of its own. But no, we have a perimeter where we could draw around your area and say, and others nearby might get it, but if you read it, it'll tell you what to do, where to go, what's going on, and all that. So any go that's in a populated area, you will be getting that iPause alert, which will hit your phone, it'll hit your TV, it'll hit the radio, it'll hit, everything, it'll wake you up. Sorry if we woke you up in the middle of the night. It's just, we had to let those residents up there know, and the bubble got a little too big.
But we know how it works now.
Yes, I even got it. Everybody in our office was like, what?
I got a person. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you touched on the bottom of Standard Creek on the eastern edge of the Gulf Stream there. You said you're setting up more equipment in there, getting ready for more movement in there, or the reason I ask is there's Standard Creek, then there's Ohio Creek and Allen Creek, and then Strait Creek. We live between Strait and Allen down at the bottom of Old Ridge Trail. And, it's just a little curious. It's a ways away, but we had, and you guys do great work. I'll tell you, 2 years ago, we had a fire start up on our power line, just spitting distance from our house. And you guys were on with tankers and, the scoopers and dropping and paratrooper, your whole regiment got in there and they did a great job. Knocked it down pretty quick. They helped the rest of the neighbors move away. But anyway, if you could elaborate a little bit on the eastern end up towards Old Ridge Trail and the red, you're on the far end of Standard Creek on the other side of Gulf Stream. There's more Standard Creek to the east and whatnot. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. So the question is, what kind of operations are we planning or doing for the Standard Creek area? So Standard Creek is out in this direction. I can't quite reach. The first thing we're doing, I'll start from the outside in, is we have sending folks out there to catalog and to evaluate structures, private residences, private lands, all out there in the Standard Creek area. And they are updating this map with our structure map, that known sites database that I mentioned. So that's the first thing they're doing. First thing you do when you need to protect a community is you figure out exactly what's in the community. So that's what they're doing. They're evaluating them, figuring out what they might need for protection, what kind of features, topography, road systems, all that stuff is around. So they're improving that. The actions we're taking in here that I referenced before, we actually had folks come off the railroad. We got them a railroad ride. And drop down to the front edge of the fire. So again, we have science. We have infrared information from satellites and from aircraft that shows us where the heat is, and then we also know where the fuel paths are with the available black spruce, which is what we're concerned about. So people are coming into here, they're starting to prepare for more crews coming in. We're gonna push some crews out on this east side of the fire, and they're gonna cut fire breaks out there. So that is what we're planning to do for really this entire Goldstream. Is this Goldstream Valley, do you guys call it that? Okay, so for the entire Goldstream Valley and anything that might be beyond. Because when we start to think about these large fires on the landscape as an incident management team, we're actually looking at maps with a much bigger frame than this. We're looking well beyond that. We're looking at, where this entire topography and fuel paths go into the city, up Ester Dome and beyond. So.
I like the way the wind's blowing.
Yeah, we'll keep that. We'll keep that on order, right, guys.
And if you have specific questions like about your house, we can hold those after, and he can kind of go up there and you can point and show us, and he'll give you a little bit more insight. Yes, ma'am, and we'll come over here.
Yes, the question is, can I explain this map? This is a fire progression map. So those of you that are interested, fire progression maps are very interesting, especially after the fire's put out. You can come on up, take a look. So basically it's growth by day. So there's a legend here, color-coded, and it attaches to what the fire did on any given day since it started.
We use those maps to help us determine if the predictions that our fire behavior analyst made, if they matched up, so that he can improve his predictions for future evolutions of the fire. So it's very valuable to us, it's interesting to y'all, but it's great information for everybody. We had over here, and then I'll come back on this side.
It was a great intro, because I was looking at that one and guessing that's what it was. Where do we find that one online? Because I've been looking at the BLM map and the fire evacuation map, and have
I don't think we...
when NCWeb had the, here's what burned in the last 24 hours.
Right.
So you knew where the leading edge was.
So the question was, where can you all find the progression map online? And they are...
It was newly produced today. Our GIS office produced that new today, and you'll see it on NCWeb tomorrow. You'll see it with the article that we posted in the morning on AK Fire Info. That's a new product for us.
Is NCWeb still active? Because when I looked at it, like for a while, like I haven't even looked at it this year because in past years I couldn't find the information I was looking for.
Alaska focuses more on akfireinfo.com. You can subscribe to that and you are notified each time it's posted. There's a lot of fires being posted to that right now. Across the top of the page on AK Fire Info, you see your fire name. If you click on that, you'll be able to find your fire that's sorted on there. And so that's how that works. There is an NCWeb for this fire. Once they reach a certain level, we do activate the NCWeb sites, and there is one for the Nenana Ridge Complex.
I hadn't even thought to look for it.
We had somebody on...
You trained for AK Fire Info.
Oh, I've been on that daily.
Good job.
Good times daily.
I think we had somebody on this side. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if the polar orbiting satellites are giving any kind of information that's useful for weather production, weather prediction, and/or details on topography and fire.
So the question is, are any of the orbiting satellites useful for giving us weather information and like mapping information? So we do get a lot of satellite imagery to help us. There's a lot of imagery that's already developed, but I'll let the weather guy kind of tell you what kind of information we get weather-wise out of the satellites.
Yeah, so polar imaging satellite is crucial for us in Alaska. Yeah, because I mean, it's going around the poles, right? So as it gets closer to the pole, that means we get more passes in Alaska just by the shape of the Earth. It's really good because there's two types of satellites. There's geostationary, which are stationed at the equator. So you've got this really steep angle that it looks at us. Polar orbiting is nice because since it's going directly overhead, we get a really high resolution image from it. So we don't have it like constantly, but yeah, it helps hugely with just weather prediction in general. And then we also have an instrument on it called VEERS, which is basically an infrared thing that's really good at heat detection on fire. So I'll use it, firefighters will use it to find out where those hot spots are on fires and to be able to see fire perimeter and fire growth and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And are there related, are there any other remote sensing devices that are being used, any kind of work that's providing either LiDAR or anything else that's helping?
Yeah, weather balloons, remote sensing. So we use them a lot. Radar is technically remote sensing because you're not like in the environment, and that helps actually a lot with fire too. Just thunderstorm activity. We have a really good lightning sensor network in Alaska. That's another huge one for fire to identify where we might have new possible fire starts at with lightning strikes. Those I'd say are the big ones.
And actually, we last night, you all didn't realize this, but an airplane flew over both of the fires, and took infrared imagery of both of the fires and gave us back. And by the time we went to our briefing at 8 a.m., we had already we were able to look at the infrared imagery where the most of the heat is happening. And so that way we can kind of coordinate, well, where's most of the heat and where are the values at risk that Brian mentioned. And so that's where maybe we need to move our people to give us more tactical information. Over here.
Continuing with that vein, does when we see these sort of like, they're almost look like atomic bomb blast type thunderheads, are they an indicator of extreme high heat?
Yes, they are. So when you see, what's
so
that?
the question
Oh,
was,
the question.
this type of clouds that we see over the fire, are they an indicator of the type of heat or activity on the fire?
Yeah, so when you see like that big mushroom cloud, or, you know, we would call it, the technical term is a pyrocumulus or a pyrocumulonimbus, which is basically when fires get big enough, they'll generate their own weather, and there's so much heat coming off it, it'll actually pop a thunderstorm, sometimes on the top of the column of smoke. And yeah, so that's an indicative of like extreme fire behavior when you see that much heat coming off it, that it's actually going to form its own thunderstorm. Yeah.
I live with mile 326 along the Park Highway, and I believe I heard an unusually loud thunderclap, which probably started the Nenana Creek fire. Is that entirely possible?
Yeah. I'm trying to think through that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of gets late in the afternoon.
I mean, we know that the Bonanza Creek and Goldstream Creek fires started by lightning. So, yeah.
Now, I have a further question, and that is on economics. It appears to me that our state could benefit from having more fixed-wing and rotary firefighting aircraft. If we don't need to use them, we could lease them out to other states and amortize the cost of that equipment.
This one's for you. We
have a dire need to be first on the list. We just put our own assets to work immediately, right? So it works economically both ways.
Yeah, the comment/idea put forward is that we should have more airplanes, and when we're not in fire season, send them to fire season somewhere else and lease them out. Thank you for the suggestion. We agree. We think there should be more airplanes. We also, there's a lot at play. So.
Okay, and then related to that question, when I was a kid, I would see these Coast Guard amphibians. Yeah, that was Grumman albatross. Okay, and those were superseded, I guess, by a combination of helicopters and C-130. I would be curious to know what happened to that large number of albatross and amphibians that would, I think, readily have converted into firefighting aircraft. Am I crazy?
Definitely your question.
The question is he crazy? Sir, I can't speak to that. The albatross sounds really interesting. We haven't heard of it. We don't employ it as a firefighting piece.
It's a little larger than the yellow airplanes that are
Yeah.
built by, I think, it's about Bombardier.
Potentially. You sound like you know your aircraft.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
So the,
So what I'm saying is, did we, as a nation, did we miss a good supply of firefighting aircraft? Because there came a time when the World War II generation aircraft, like a PBY Catalina, had to be retired.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say that I do believe that the super smart people at the top of fire equipment and fire and aviation equipment probably are building and using the best aircraft available.
but with that idea of sharing aircraft, and that's what we do with all the resources in the country.
One thing I observed in 2013, that was when there was a fire started by Northland Wood, some kind of
Right.
spark or something like that. Okay. What I noticed there is that the money probably in the long run to, knock out that fire.
So the comment is about if we had, the pilots are allowed to fly about 10 hours a day. So if we had more pilots, they could just kind of rotate through the same piece of aircraft. That is an excellent idea, but unfortunately, there's just so many fire pilots in the United States. Right. And it's a limited resource. It takes a long time to become one, and it's hard to find them because remember, Alaska's not the only fire state in the nation right now. Oregon's burning up, and there's all these other, Washington's got fires, all these other fires throughout the nation. And so we end up having to share those resources. And as the fire season moves on in the lower 48, it makes it more difficult to bring in fire resources to Alaska. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Folks, sorry, real quick. We're going to do 3 more questions, and a 3-part question will probably count as 3. So maybe save some for your neighbors.
Use your questions wisely.
I have a growing, wonderful sense of calm and confidence hearing you experts that obviously know what you're talking about, and I appreciate the calmness that you're approaching this, and it seems like you have this idea that you're just going to keep marching along and take care of business. But then in the back of my mind, I'm seeing fires from other parts in the country where they go 20 miles through a whole city in 1 hour, or maybe I'm exaggerating. And how are our fires so different, or are they? Can they move that fast? And should I be worried that it's going to jump to 3 miles to my house, from Bonanza to my house? Or do I have 5 days for that to happen?
So,
we can tag team
the
that.
question is, can the fires move really far and really fast? Under certain conditions, yes. Alaska is its own beast. California is its own beast. There's a lot of news about what happened in California in January. That was the most extreme Santa Ana weather event that region had seen in a lifetime from fire friends of mine down there. One of our tenets in firefighting is base all action on current and expected fire behavior. Okay, and that's why we have projections like these with our weather. That's why we have guys like Casey, our F-man, who's looking at the fuel moistures, who's looking at the fuel bed, who's running, modeling and that's why we have a lot of experience. So can the fire do that under the current conditions? Highly unlikely. Yes.
With that said, we still have 2 more questions, so we're good. With that said, he kind of leads me into an opportunity here to put a plug towards what you can kind of do to help yourself to help us. So keeping it kind of clean around your house, keeping the trees back away so that there's defensible space around your house. We do have some flyers at the back where you kind of walked in there about FireWise, and it gives you tips on how you can make your house FireWise, your property FireWise. Because if you make your property more accessible to us, where I can get in there with a brush truck, a fire engine, and make it around your house, I can defend your house. If I can turn around and not have to drive up and then back down where it's very dangerous for the firefighters, I'm going to be more likely able to defend your house. So by you helping your property be more fire-wise, it helps us in the case of those crazy bad weather days where the fire's just moving and tearing through things. So that's really important. If there's one big takeaway that you can have tonight, is go home tonight and look around your house and say, maybe we don't need to have all that firewood stacked up next to the garage, right? Where the fire embers can get there. Do I have holes up in the soffits around my house where embers are going to fly up in there uncontrollably and start a fire in the attic? So think of those things. Get some of those pamphlets if you have internet access. plenty of stuff on the internet about how can I make my house fire wise from wildfire. So we'll go over here. Yes, sir.
This is a loaded question.
Nice.
Right.
We like loaded ones.
What's your plan for the folks that don't evacuate?
Our plan for the folks that don't evacuate. What is our plan for the folks that don't evacuate? Like a hypothetical? if it comes to Esther, what are we going to do?
I can.
Yeah. We're going to do our job.
So
we're going to do what we do.
So part of that is a good loaded question. I like that. So our number one priority, okay, before your house is you. Okay, if I have to choose, do I save the homeowner or do I save his house? What am I going to choose? The homeowner. So if you're there and you're out there with your hose spraying things down, and I arrive with my big hoses and bulldozers and everything else, I can help protect your house, but at the same time that I'm fighting fire and defending your house, I've got to pay attention to you, because I can't lose track of you, because you're my number one. And so if you're there, and I'm not saying you'll be in our way or anything like that, everybody's typically very wonderful about letting us do our work, but if you're still there, I got to know where you are first. I got to know what you're doing, because if you fall out from heat exhaustion or getting hurt, now I can't defend your house, because now I have to take 2 firefighters to lift you up and get you to safety, because you're still number one. So that is kind of the back of the burner plan of like, okay, this is our contingency. If they're still in the house or they're still there when they've been issued an evacuation order, it can delay us.
You can't overemphasize defensible space.
Correct.
God forbid you ever have to be the person that tells somebody that's got you by the neck that you can't do anything to save their place because you can't, it's too unsafe.
If I can't pull a truck in there, if I can't put firefighters in there safely, I can't. It's always life safety first. And I can't risk a firefighter because somebody has trees right up against the side of their house. And I can't get in there with equipment. We had one more question. Yes, sir.
Is your incident management team number one priority for the air resources? Or are you sharing them with BLN and everybody else in the state?
I'll let you.
Yeah. The question is this fire number one for air resources? The answer is yes, we are the number one priority fire in Alaska. So that said, initial attack, which is the suppression of all new fires, does take the top priority at all times, because the last thing you need when we have big fires on the landscape like this with a lot of people mobilized is 5 more of those. So try to get them when they're small.
Oh, we've got one of our AAs would like to make a comment.
I would like to comment on that the BLM is here, and we are 100% behind these guys. We're meeting multiple times a day and trying to give them anything they need to help them. So.
Yep, and I'll add to that, when it comes to aircraft in specific, we don't look at agency.
Right.
Honestly, we don't on the ground either. Firefighter's a firefighter. They get there, we put them to work. We call up, we say, I need a helicopter of this type. Sometimes it comes out of the Alaska Fire Service, BLM, and sometimes it comes from Forestry. Sometimes we already have it under our control with the fire, so it's a mix. We order it, it comes. Fire is a very, very interagency profession where sharing is essential to success.
Which keeps one agency from having to own all of the aircraft. Everybody shares. It's very cooperative, very, very cooperative. It's a beautiful side of government that most of you don't get to see, but you're seeing the result of it, of all of these agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, everybody just coming together, not from an agency, but as a team. And it works. It works. And with that,
All right. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for being here. We're going to stick around and answer any additional questions you have. So if you had a lingering question, please don't hesitate to find one of us and ask. I did also want to re-mention the phone number that we have that you can call for information from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That number is 907-331-0454. And if you didn't get that down, pick one of us up in the bright yellow shirts and we'll give that to you again. Thank you all to all the folks who were able to speak tonight, to the VFD for hosting us, but mostly to all of you for coming, making time in your schedules to come and speak with us and share with us what's most important to you and your questions and concerns. So I really applaud you for that, for taking time. If you brought a camp chair, thank you so much. Make sure you don't leave it here when you head out. Otherwise, I'll have a whole new camping setup by the time I head home. So thank you in advance for that. Anyway, thank you all so much. Please find all of us and ask us your lingering questions.
Thank you.